Okay, I think I'm going live. I've no idea. Not done it before. I thought I'd give it a go. It kept saying you should go live, so I'll do it. So whether anybody's there or not, I don't mind. But I'm going to go through and do a painting. And this is the image. In fact, you can see it on the screen there. I've managed to get that there. Starting with the ink outline. And I'm just going to paint it through. If anybody wants to watch, I'll try. If there's any questions, I can try and answer those, but I can't actually see the screen whilst I'm painting. No idea how to make the setup better. I'm just making up as I go along. So here we go. I'm going to just go through and paint this purple door with the wisteria. I thought it was really pretty. Let's see if we can get some colours on that. The paints that I'm using are this sort of travel tin Daleroni Aquafine. These are the paints that I use for any of the workshops that I run. They're not necessarily the paints that I use for my own work or commissions, but I found that these ones are a good size for all beginners or improvers on my classes, and it's easier to have everybody to have the same palette, so we can try to get similar colours as we're doing a sketch along. So I'm going to base it on this palette, this colour palette we've got today. So I'm going to try and see if I can get something suitably purpley, a bit more blue in there, cooler blue. On these Daleroni, on these Aquafines, this one here is classed as purple, which doesn't seem very purple to me, but so I've added in a bit of cool blue. So I'm going to start by just putting a wash over the door. I'm going to leave the brass parts and go around if I can. I'll go a little bit more of that pinky purple. I'm using quite a big brush, biggish area. I don't want the paint to dry out, so as soon as I feel like it's starting to dry out, put it back in. If it's too dry, I find the paint becomes too even and will dry very flat, whereas if I keep plenty on the brush, you can see it leaves puddles, so I'm sort of pushing the paint round rather than brushing it, and then it dries with a bit more texture. I've no idea if anybody can actually hear me or not. Hopefully you can. I won't waffle on too much though. So I'm going over a full wash of purple for the front door. So I inked this, it must have been well before Christmas. Just going to go around those leaves a little bit. Leave those there. And of course, to do it this way, if I'm doing ink and watercolour, I need to make sure I use waterproof ink. Have a look at my phone. Oh, I can see 18 people. Excellent. Hello. I'm not sure where this door is. I just came across it, I think on Pinterest or something. It looks quite London style, I think. Ugh, I've got a really fluffy jumper on, coat thing on, and it keeps dropping fluff onto the paint, which is annoying. Anybody that's joining just now, I've not been going long, but just to let you know, if we think, oh, that's a bit rubbish, I've never used a live setting on any platform before, so apologies if I'm a bit rubbish at it. Okay, I'm going to let that bit dry. I don't mind sometimes if the colours bleed into each other, but I don't want it to do it too much. So that's purple down just as the first wash. I think then I'm going to do, you can see on the picture there, this sort of green bit here, so it's a coolish green, so I'm going to go in, this is a bit like a sap green to start, and then add a little bit more this cooler one. Oh, it says I've got to swipe right to see a comment. Oh, I've just moved the picture. I've no idea how to find your comments, I'm really sorry. Oh, I've mixed my colours as well there. Right, anyway, back to the, I'll just go back to this green. So when I'm doing these sort of inking watercolours, I don't try to go into too much detail, certainly not with the colour, but build it up in layers. So I'm going to do a wash of a sort of a cooler green to start with, leave that to dry. So that's, you can see I'm just pointing, that's that bit of the shrubbery there. This bit here is more of a sort of a yellowy olive, so get a bit of sap green, a bit of yellow ochre, and just put a wash in there, put a little bit on the leaves. And I've got some detail of leaf, but I try not to put too much detail in, and again when I put in the colour, it's just sort of dabbing it on just to give the impression of that colour in there, and a little bit down here as well. To be honest, I've not really thought through the process for this one, because quite often with watercolour you go through the process, the step by step, which things make sense, what layers to go first, that sort of thing. But I've just gone for it this morning. Tried not to think too much about the whole going live thing and just doing it. Right, so let that dry. For anybody doing ink and watercolour, I do recommend having a hairdryer to hand, so just bear with me with the noise of this. There we go, sorry about that noise, but it makes it a lot easier, a lot quicker, especially if you're not a very patient person, which I openly admit I'm not. It makes a massive difference. Okay, this pink here on that side of the wall, it's quite a very pastel-y pink, which I find always quite hard to capture in watercolour. Well, let's see. Right, go some, can't see my palette here, but I'm trying to mix. So this is a bit too purple, so I'm going to go with this sort of cooler red. And then I'm going to just put a tiny bit of yellow ochre in just to warm it up a little bit. No, now a bit more purple. Let's see. It's very hard to get these pastel-y colours with watercolour. Right. I don't want to go too orangey and any yellow. Right, I'm just going to go with that. So I'm just going to put a wash in here and just keep it very light. So I don't need it to look exactly like the picture, I just need an impression of the picture. It's pink all the way up, so I'm just going to go roughly in between those branches. Okay, that'll do. And oh, a bit more down this way as well. It looks really bland at the minute, I know. Hopefully, as you build up the layers, it improves. Okay. So for the, it's a white wall, but it looks like it's got a tinge of sort of bluey green to it. So I'm going to mix up a bit of blue and a bit of this sort of viridian green. It's very cold, sort of bluey greens. Kind of very light wash. It just takes the edge off the white paper. Use a big brush. So I'm going to go up to the what would be the white frame of the door. Keep the frame white. Touch more green in there, but again, really water down. Cover this whole area. Not worrying too much about this trellis. Just leave that for now. Focus on the door. Right, these bits of pink, a bit more pink here, so we'll come back to that. Tissue. So I might use this subject as one of my classes at some point, but I think it's a little bit more of the sort of improvers to slightly more advanced class in terms of sketching it out. So I'm going to save this one for a little bit. Right, this is still wet here, so bear with me again with the head right. There we go. Just fast forward to a dry painting. Well, I've got a bit of that pink still. I'm going to do these here. I'm standing up while I'm doing this, so I can look at the screen at the same time. So I'm not too fussy about staying in the lines. Okay. So it's always just a bit of the logistics when it's watercolour, like which bit to do next, what makes sense. I think I'm going to go with some of the glass, so the dark windows above the door. So I'm going to use a Payne's Grey. Payne's Grey is just a bit of a cooler black, sort of more of a bluey black. I'm going to mix some of that up. I'm going to go with this slightly smaller brush. Okay, a bit darker. Quite often watercolours will dry lighter, so don't be scared of the dark colours. These are some really lovely brushes I bought a couple of years ago. They're Billy Shoal range from Rosemary brushes. I bought them in a pack of, I don't know, about 4 or 5, varying in sizes. So they're really great for tiny little details. So yeah, so nice point on them. They're really good, especially for more detailed botanical type watercolour painting. I'm assuming people can hear me. Can you hear me? I only joined TikTok at the end of last year. I still don't really understand how it works. I think that might be an age thing. Always making sure there's plenty of paint on the brush. It's not letting it dry out too quickly. And there's wisteria branches. I tried to grow wisteria out the front of my house, at the side to the front door, and it lasted about, well, generously 6 months. I'm not very good at that sort of thing. Right, so for the front door, it's very pale at the minute, which is fine because it's going to go over in layers, a bit like what we'd call glazing. Trying to get a bit more vibrant, but again, vibrancy in watercolours is quite difficult. I think you can get certain watercolours that are more vibrant or neon in their colours, but I've just got a basic set here. So let's see, just looking where the highlights are on the door. I can always go back in with a bit of white at the end, which I know is a cheat, but I don't mind. So mainly I've got highlights on the bottoms of those panels. You can see where the light's catching that. So I'm going to go over with another layer, but just leave that. And it's a subtle thing, but I'm going to go over and do that anyway. So I'm just going to leave this edge here. It's almost not worth it. Oh, my seat keeps moving. Try again. Right. Oh, and now I've splattered paint. So I'm just keeping that bottom edge because that's where the light's catching it the most. I'm going a bit too pink there as well. Let's go a bit more blue. Just going to try and keep working. To it. Whilst it's still wet. Started to dry a bit there. And second layer is bringing out a nice bit more vibrant colour at least. Leave a bit of colour for those leaves. A little bit of space for those leaves. Again, just going to keep that bit lighter. And this bit is catching more light, so I'm not going to put another layer on there. I'm going to keep that with one layer of colour. Okie-doke. Right. Leave that bit again. Oh, just have a slurp of coffee. Alright, I think I'll work a bit more on this green. Get the image back up for myself. I'm going to go with a smaller brush. I'm going to mix up a bit of that sap green again, a little bit of darker green. I'm not going to worry too much about the actual details on the photo. I'm giving the impression of some darker leaves, some shadows in amongst that shrubbery. I'm not entirely sure what it is, maybe some sort of ivy thing. No, just keeping it quite wibbly wobbly, varying the colour a little bit. You can see it's a bit more of a brighter sort of bluer green, and it's more yellow green there, so just keep varying the colour a little bit in there. And the brush marks are quite, I'd say, wibbly wobbly. I'd sort of describe it as more organic, so it gives the impression of something more plant like. And that's going to take ages to dry, so I've put it on quite thick, not as in thick in paint, but just lots of water, saturated colour and water. Okay, next bit, that's still wet. Maybe I'll put a bit on that light. Okay, so I've gone a bit Payne's grey, and the two sides are quite light, so I'm going to go for all of the bit behind. And then I think because of the reflection on the glass, there's a bit of a tinge of blue on there. Steps at the bottom, go back to the bigger brush, bigger area. Sort of a yellow ochre kind of colour, sort of warmer stone. So that's one layer, and then I'll go over it again for the riser part as darker. So this is the first layer for the lighter step, the actual tread part of the step. Let that dry. I'm going to use the hairdryer again. If you stay for this whole painting, I would be amazed, but I also won't be offended if you don't, because it takes a while. I'm trying to sort of move through quickish. I'm going to put in the brown of the branches. I'm not sure I'm doing this in the right order for what I would usually do, but I'll just go with it anyway. Oh, I just moved that picture again, sorry. It's say I need to swipe. I think there's a comment there and I need to swipe, but every time I just touch the screen it moves that, so sorry. I've no idea how to look at comments. Maybe if I can look at them after and I can always reply. If you have any questions about any of these things, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. But if I can't do it whilst I'm painting, you can always message me if you need to know about, or would like to know about the materials or equipment I'm using, or any tips that I might be able to give you. That'll do. Right, let that dry. Then I think I'll do some shadows on the door, because it's the shadows that always brings the painting to life. That when you get a greater contrast between the colours. So at the moment it's very flat. So for the shadows on the door, I'm going to use a bit of the purple. I'm going to make it quite a cool shadow. So using some of this Payne's grey and a bit of blue. So it's like a very dark purple really, but I'm going to go more bluey purple. If I find it's too light, I'll just let it dry and then I'll put another layer on. Adding shadows, like I said, it brings a lot more contrast to the picture and more life to it. Now, I quite often will add stronger shadows in because it just makes the painting pop more. So whilst I know the sunlight on here and the shadows aren't particularly strong, I'm going to pretend it is a bit stronger. So I'm going again to suggest, just looking where the shadows, I'm going to think about the light coming in from this direction. So that way, I know I'm going that way as well, that way. So which means there'll be shadows cast here. I'm going to pretend that there's a shadow underneath the frame for a start. Now, is that coming up dark enough? And then I'm going to imagine there's a shadow being cast from that wisteria as well. I'm going to have quite a big shadow down here, being cast from the door frame. A little bit there. And then for the panels, there'll be shadow cast there. A shadow cast under there. And on this bit. This bit as well. A little bit under that. It's quite shaky and quite wobbly, my lines at the minute, partly because I'm sort of half standing up because my phone's set up pretty much right in my face. It kind of blocks the view, as you can imagine. Let's put a little bit of shadow there from this plant. I can just see that drying a bit too uneven. Bit of a shadow around the letterbox. Again, shadow on these panels. Confusing myself now. Basically just some shadows on there would look better. I'm going to leave it like that for now. Oh, thank you for all your likes. I can see lots of little love heart likes going up on the screen. It's very kind. Yeah, let that dry. And then I need to sort out some shadow on the wall at the back. So I've got this very faint wash of a bluey green. I'm going to go in just a little bit more the bluey green, so a bit of Payne's grey there. That's too blue. A little bit more grey blue. That'll do. So I'm getting quite a lot of shadow from behind the wisteria. Just dab that on there. I can go even darker with that in a moment. Just get rid of that blue because there's a white frame. I don't want that blue. Then this part is in shadow. Oh, it's gone too blue again. There we go, there's a shadow on the inside of the door on that rendered wall. Okay, let that dry. Oh, let's go here. There's some shadow here. Actually, perhaps needs to be a little bit more green. Now we've got this bit. No, I realised I didn't go in because that pink was still wet at the time. This needs that first layer of bluey green. Okay, I'm going to put in a bit more shadow being cast from here. There we go, makes things pop a bit more, even though it is very wobbly lines. Right, it's just a matter of looking what's dry. So this bit of leaf here, a bit of wisteria again, I think. I'm going to go a bit more olive green and a little bit of yellow ochre. And again, just going to dab that in just to create a bit of depth, some shadows in there. A bit more colour on those leaves. I think for the wisteria, I'm going to use some Posca pens. There we go. That needs to dry a bit more if we can do anything. How about a bit of darker pink shadow? So I'm just going to add a bit of blue into that. Red, black. There we go, it works okay. A shadow there. I'm going to imagine some shadows being cast by the branches and the wisteria. There we go. Might go a bit darker after that, but let that dry. Okay, need the hairdryer again. Bear with me. Okay, so I'm going to add some olivey green leaves in up here. Again, I'm not worrying too much about exactly being like the photo, I'm just giving that impression. I can't actually see the photo on there, there we go. There's not that many leaves there, it's mainly flowers. So let's give that. I'm not even worrying about keeping it in those lines, just keeping it loose and organic for plants. Yeah, I'll do. Alright, I'm going to go do a bit more on that lantern again. Go darker on the top. Oops. And just darken up the frame as well. Oops, I realised that was wet. Come back to that in a minute. Very wobbly hand today. It's because I've had 2 coffees, which is quite a lot for me. There we go. A bit darker there. Now the purple's dry, I'll just put a bit of the door furniture, I think it's called. So a bit of that brass colour there. And let's knock a bit. Is it all brass? Yeah. Oh, I've not added that bit there, never mind. Get this nice pop of colour. I like that. Okay, and then I'm going to do some more shadow at the top of the door. Right, let's get the colours for that. And go a bluey black. Right, I might go darker down there as well. Ooh, a bit more black. Now this is going to be completely in shadow. And in fact, all of that up there is as well. Watch that green. It's going to end up with that green bleeding a bit, but never mind. this bit of shadow for the branches. So this, because the door's set back from the wall, it gets this, it casts the shadow over the frame. Go back to the slightly bigger brush. So it covers all of that. Oops. It's time to try more colour. So that's the shadows from the Wisteria branch. Okay, it's looking a bit more lively now. I'll add some shadow on this riser step. Well, not shadow, it's just darker. The step itself captures the light, the tread. Whereas obviously the riser part is a bit darker. And then also let's get a bit more of that colour. There's a little bit of shadow under the very bottom of the door and being cast from that side of the frame, that side of the wall. And the same actually from this wall, shadow there as well. More pink shadow from those. Get that right. Alright, some more dark greens. Now each time it just gets a little bit darker, but less of it. I'm just looking for some areas of much darker greens, almost black in there. So if the light's coming from this direction, it's going to catch more light, and then on the undersides of the leaves, it's going to get more shadow. There we go. Now that's dry, you can do the railings. Sort of basically it's a blacky colour down to the wall. You can just see a little bit hiding behind that wisteria. And I've got a bit of that sort of black. I'm just going to water it down a bit and put a bit of shadow in there. A bit dark around here as well. Okay. Right. Almost got majority of it in. There's so many other bits and details you could add, but I'm going to try and keep it fairly simple. Every time you think you've nearly finished, you look back at the photo and think, ah, no, there's more. Right, so for the actual wisteria itself, I'm going to just put a wash of colour on there. So this is like the mid colour. Some bits are lighter and some bits are darker. So usually for watercolour it's very hard to, once you've gone with the mid colour, it's very hard to get the lighter colour back again, but I've got some white ink that I'm going to do that, use for that, just to pull out some highlights on there. Hello, more people keep arriving. Hello, hello. I don't know how long I've been going. I've been going for quite a long time. So, yeah, come and go as you wish. Don't expect you to stay here for the entire painting. I suspect this is gonna, by the time I'm done, it's about an hour. Is that still wet? A little bit wet. I'll do these ones first. Slowly coming to life. I've no idea if anybody's even interested in watching me paint. I know it's sometimes quite nice, quite relaxing watching people paint, so, but I'm quite enjoying doing it. I thought, oh, I won't talk much, but I'm just mumbling away for the entire time about absolute nonsense. Right, some more wisteria down here. I think that's dry enough now. Okay. So we're going to go a bit of shadow on this wall. Shadow on here as well. I like that paint dry there. I need to add a bit more green in behind it. What else? It's a very simplified version of the photo. Right, I'm just going to blast it with the hairdryer again. There we go. Right, so I'm going to go darker purple on the wisteria, some of the sort of more shadow parts of the flowers. There we go. Again, like I said, the sunlight I'm imagining coming from this direction, so the shadows are more on this side. Ooh, that's way too much. I'm just going to dot those in. Like so. Hopefully you can see it just brings a bit more life to them, those shadows. This one's not attached to anything. I have to put a branch in there. Try not to put my hand in the wet paint. I've got no idea what this music is that's playing. Probably wouldn't be my first choice. Okay, and then just a bit down here as well. next, I think I'll add a bit of white in. So, like we say, with watercolour, you tend to work from light to dark. So if you go dark, it's very difficult to then make it light again. But these pens are really good for just picking out highlights when you've not been able to keep the white from the paper. So it's a Uniball Signo white roller pen, gel pen. So I'm going to add a little bit of highlight here. That's where the light's catching the paint at the door. And a bit more down here. And then a bit on these ones as well. This is the edges where the light is catching more. And again, it would probably be a little bit of highlight on there. On this. I've tried a lot of different white pens out before, and these are the ones that work the best. I have the best opacity to them. Okay. Then we've got a bit of light being reflected there. And I might just put some little wiggly white lines in here as well, although I'm not sure how much you can see it. Just if you add some extra line work in, it gives more texture. Just keeping it very loose and wiggly. Main thing is not worrying too much. Is it actually still going? I have no idea. And again, a little bit of white on these. Right, hairdryer again to get those shadows dry. So on this side of the flowers, just add in some white highlights on there. Oh, it's a bit wet still. Right. Yeah. So they've gone from being a very flat, mid sort of purple pink colour to much more lively looking, I'd say. Okay, so one thing I've noticed whilst I was doing that is that I think these windows need to go a bit darker, the glass needs to go a bit darker. Gets a bit more contrast with the shadows then. That's nicer, just looks a bit cleaner with that darker black. quickly. TikTok said, how about do a 30-minute live? I thought, oh, 30 minutes of live, that sounds quite a long time, but I have no idea how long I've been going now. I think it's far longer than that. Okay, so we've got that there. What else could I do? I'm not worrying too much about these bits of details here and here, just focusing on this part. I suspect there's a bit more shadow. I'll go with a sort of bluey black bit of shadow down here, just tiny bit. And on at the bottom where we've got the step and that sort of yellow ochre, I'm just going to mix up some more sort of browny yellow ochre and add some splatters in there. Okay, and in fact, because I like splatters so much, just to add a bit of liveliness, I'm going to add a couple of splatters around there. And green there. I think that's about it. The only thing I'll perhaps do is go a bit heavier on the shadows. I'll put some shadows underneath these branches. Darker on there. A bit more complex with the shadows. Oops, too blue. Still too a bit blue. Oh gosh, gone really dark now. Never mind. In fact, just going to go all out dark. Be brave with the shadows. I think that probably looks better. There we go. Right, I'm going to stop at that. There's always more you can do on there, but hopefully that gives a bit of an idea of how to do ink and watercolour. I've no idea. I think you'll probably be able to look back on the video. I'll finish it in a moment. And any questions, I say I'm more than happy to try and answer them as much as I can. And if you've liked it, I'll perhaps do another one, just so I can waffle along with just nonsense. So anyway, thank you.